So this example 2 on lesson 25 is quite challenging. It's having us simplify this expression, which is quite a lot of things happening here. So it's a division problem, ultimately. There's a big numerator that involves another division problem and a subtraction. And on the bottom, division and again subtraction. So I need to do some subtraction and some dividing here in order to get to my simplest terms. So I'm going to just kind of try to take this step by step. I'm going to leave it as one big fraction at first. And let me just think about what happens on the top here. The first thing I need to do is get this subtraction, get this -1 combined with this first rational expression. And if I'm going to subtract 1, really I need to subtract something with a common denominator of 2b minus 1. So I can take the first little rational expression here, and when we're subtracting or adding 1, it's pretty easy. The denominator just becomes the numerator and the denominator in this one. So notice this still equals 1. This -1 became minus 2b minus 1 divided by 2b minus 1. This expression here is equal to 1, but now I've got a common denominator. I can kind of do the same little trick on the bottom, but I need to multiply the top and bottom by b plus 1. It looks like this. There's my 4. Clearly, these two factors could divide out and I'd be left with 4. But I want to leave it there because now I have a common denominator like this. And I'll just keep these parentheses around this expression here. So it looks kind of messy, but it's kind of getting simpler. Notice I can do the subtraction now. And again, I'm going to start with my fraction bar, and I'm going to keep the top and bottom separate. I'm working on first the top and then the bottom. I'm not doing anything between the two yet. But I get b squared plus b minus 1 minus 2b plus 1. Remember, that minus sign counts for everything on the top of that. So I have to distribute the minus sign appropriately. And then I'm dividing by 2b minus 1. And on the bottom, I get 4b plus 4. I'm going to use the distributive property there because I already know I'm going to want to do some combining of like terms with my -8. And that's all divided by b plus 1. So let me do a little more work here to clean this up. I can combine the like terms, b squared plus b minus 2b, so that's b squared minus b, and a -1 and a +1. So that's it on the top, and then 2b minus 1 on the bottom of that fraction, and I'm dividing that whole thing by 4b minus 4 divided by b plus 1. So it's starting to look pretty simple here. Let me keep going down here. I'm going to turn my division problem into a multiplication problem now by taking the first or the top fraction and multiplying by the reciprocal over 4b minus 4. And again, my first instinct might be to actually go and do a bunch of multiplication and come out with some polynomial in standard form, but let me instead factor this. b squared minus b becomes b times b minus 1, and I'm multiplying by this b plus 1. And on the bottom, I got a 2b minus 1. And I'm going to factor out the 4 and get a 4 times the quantity b minus 1 here. And, there's not a lot of canceling that we can do, but we can divide out the b minus 1 like that. And I'm left with b times b plus 1, all divided by 4 times 2b minus 1. And that right there, I don't see anything else that I can cancel. or divide out, I should say. That's what canceling really is. It's dividing. So that is my simplest form of this expression that I started with. Definitely simpler.